I went to Burning Man and I was sober and I just threw my bike down. I just closed my eyes and got into the music in my body, sober for the first time. And I'll never forget this feeling of like this kind of like coming home to my self-expression and not needing a beverage in my hand, not needing drugs to, give me that courage to just like let my freak flag fly.
Radha and I have known each other nearly 20 years. 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we must have been 7 years old when we met, so, 20 years.
Just kids.
And but we were just kids. We were both new in New York. I was a cub reporter traveling all over New York City, shooting stories. And you, tell me if I have this right. We're doing something with talking vegetables?
Yeah. It's called Super Sprouts.
Super Sprouts,
Yes.
that's it. Oh my gosh. I think I did a story on Super
That's
Sprouts.
right, that's right,
And then
you did.
your sister was doing
Wild
the
restaurant.
first restaurant, right. So Radha has a twin sister named Mickey, and we met and we did a lot of things together, community-based things together in my home, your homes.
I remember Lust, look up, stop texting.
Look up, stop texting. That was an
love
early
that.
thing I did.
Yeah.
The theme here is that we've both tried a lot of stuff. We both want to make a lot of stuff happen. And that has since informed exactly how you live your life right now. Everything you set out to do, intended to do, you didn't necessarily know exactly what form it would take, but you wanted to do something. And you were never a person who was going to just have a job and like stay at that job. It's just not you.
I'm unemployable, unfortunately.
Yeah, same. But then you and your sister went on to start THINX. THINX, THINX. It was the first underwear that was grabbed your period where it is. You're wearing it where it is? Okay, so tell us about THINX.
Yeah, so THINX is an underwear brand that supports your menstruation and helps you manage it in a way that sort of makes you feel sexy and beautiful. Men invented tampons and pads, but now women can sort of invent things for themselves, and so we invented this pair of underwear where the gusset of the underwear can absorb up to.
I don't know what a gusset is.
So the bottom of the underwear, like where your hoo-ha.
Where your hoo-ha is. The gusset
is the gusset is
holder?
Yes.
The hoo-ha holder.
So it came up with this thing's called technology, which could absorb it and like actually hold, up to like 2 tampons worth of blood. And then you wouldn't have to sort of throw millions of tampons in landfill, which end up in a landfill every year and destroy ecosystems. You live on the water.
Yes.
So millions of tampons were being, raked up out of the ocean.
You know what we call the tampon holders that come up on the sand?
What's that?
Beach whistles.
Oh my God.
So gross,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And also it's all plastic and it's, so this underwear allows for you to just like bleed into it freely. You wash it in the sink and you throw it in the washer and easy peasy.
Was the impetus for that the environment?
Actually, I think step one was to actually break the taboo around the topic of menstruation. I think there's so much kind of shame. There was certainly, 12, 15 years ago when we started the underwear line. And from there, now women are free bleeding everywhere. There's like literally like, kind of period power everywhere.
Free bleeding is a thing?
Yeah. I mean, my sister and I DJ'd a set at Burning Man last year. Mickey free bled the entire set and it's like all over, every press and media picked it up as like the free bleeding DJ.
Wow, what a different world we live in.
I mean, it's just these are obviously in more like performative, like wild, kind of like playful spaces. You wouldn't just do that like walking down the street.
Right. The dry cleaning bills alone just sound really formidable to me.
No, but like anyway, the underwear is just like meant to make you feel sexy and beautiful. It's not like that grandma panties that you put in the back of your drawer. It's full of stains. Right. This is like stain free, leak free. It's like cuts that feel really good as well. And then again, also like for me as a heavy Asian bleeder.
Do Asians bleed more than other people?
I actually think so. Yeah, I bleed for 8 days, 9 days a month. Yeah, so a third of my life.
Oh my God, it's like Hanukkah every month or year.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is day 2, right now. So anyway, all this to say, we sold it in 2020, and it was life-changing. Yeah.
Okay, so you sell it, and let's say that you sold it on, let's say, a Tuesday. So like on Wednesday, you're like, and now what?
Yeah, exactly. Well, no. By then, we'd already started. We'd already left the business.
Okay.
And I'd started Daybreaker, and Mickey started Tushy, which is like the modern bidet company.
Yeah.
And then Daybreaker was just absolutely taking off and becoming a global kind of movement.
What Daybreaker is well, why am I talking? You're sitting right here. Tell us about Daybreaker.
Yeah. So, in 2013, I got sort of, I was building my businesses as we just talked about, and I just would go out at night to let my hair down. I love to dance. Dance for me is like my medicine, is my
Always
technology.
has been?
Always has been. Just as, I mean, I would say, actually, no, I would say starting in college.
Okay.
I think before that I was a bit too insecure, but then I had the liquid courage to go and dance, and then I rediscovered through Burning Man. Actually, I went to Burning Man, and I'll never forget this, like going to Deep Ply, which is sort of like down, late at night when no everyone was sleeping, and I went by myself and I was sober, and I just threw my bike down. I just closed my eyes and got into the music in my body, sober for the first time. And I'll never forget this feeling of like this kind of like coming home to my self-expression and not needing a beverage in my hand, not needing drugs to, give me that courage to just like let my freak flag fly. And just again finding the somatic sort of self. And I remember just crying and then opening my eyes. And then the sun was cresting upon the horizon. I was like, wow, why do we relegate all of these transformational experiences to faraway festivals?
Yep.
And why can't we bring them to the cities where we live? And that's sort of where Daybreaker was born.
Yep.
It was sort of this idea of like, can we bring this magical, whimsical, mystical experience to the cities where we dwell? So, and at the time, like I was just sharing, I was building my businesses. I invested in nightclubs, and it was just like zombie led. Everyone on their phones, they're actually dancing, everyone like spilling drinks all over you. Just a very predatory environment as well. So Daybreaker really was kind of a social experiment that we started. Really, I think everything I do is an experiment.
Yeah, right.
And then from that place, you can never fail, right? It's always just like, it's a grand experiment.
Right.
Let's give it a shot. And so the experiment was, okay, let's start this morning dance party. Let's invite friends. And I took the time to like really think about who I would invite, like not any negative Nancy's or like drug addled friends who would say this is a stupid idea. So I just really invited friends who I thought would be like a fuck yeah to it.
Yes.
And then I call them FYFs in my book.
Fuck yeah friends.
Yeah.
But fuck yeah friends is exactly who you want.
That's right.
Jula over there is a fuck yeah friend.
Yes, let's go.
True, right? Esteban is a fuck yeah. Like if you want fuck yeah, right?
Exactly. Anyway,
sorry, this is like a real
it's a very technical term, by the way. And but all this to say, so I invited these friends, and 180 of them showed up at the very first one, and the idea was like
180 friends.
Well, friends of friends. It was just like, it was password protected, invite, just through word of mouth, whisper sharing. And so that's sort of how it began. Like, it was sort of like, let's see if people were willing to wake up at sunrise on a weekday before going to work. This is pre-pandemic, before working from home was a thing.
Right.
So it was people on their way from their bed to their office, but in between they would come and dance their faces off and go to the office. And instead of, alcohol, we served green juice. Instead of a bouncer looking up and down, deciding you were cool enough to come in,
Right.
we had a hugging committee welcome you in with open arms, dressed like this, and just like, just like complimenting you on your way in.
Oh, yeah.
And we
I love
replaced
that.
the alcohol with green juice, replaced, just the DJ pushing buttons with a horn section and a more vibrant DJ. And we added performative elements like fire spinners, aerialists, break dancers, all at 6 a.m. before going to work. And so people minds were blown, and they just were like, what the hell is this? And then they started sharing with their friends, and then it sort of took off. And then one of our community, this last piece, one of the friends came in to the second event and just said, hey, I'm moving to San Francisco and I bring this there. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So I spent 2 weeks writing a playbook, and then we launched it all across the world. And now we're in 33 cities around the world. We're a community of almost 1 million members.
Oh,
And we've danced in
love
Mars, we've danced in Antarctica, we've danced, the White House, we've danced, we toured with Oprah. And, it's been just this wild, magical adventure. Yeah.
so yeah.
You're off the mile.
Okay, and I know that, I know there's nothing we can do about it, but it's so loud behind us, right? It sounds good. Okay. So even in 2013, things like mimosas and Bloody Marys and Irish coffee existed.
Yes.
You could have served alcohol. Why did you choose to make it a totally clean and sober event?
Because first of all, I feel really terrible when I drink alcohol. I'm Asian, and there's a lot of, allergy.
You're hungover.
Yeah, I mean, we get the Asian
Short.
glow, and like one, yeah, exactly. I have like half this. I would take a whiff, and I'm just like wasted. No, I think for me, it's just, it was a moment in time in the wellness space where actually wellness was just coming up, and festival culture was coming up at the same time, and 2013, it was sort of like the beginning of like that kind of the yoga movement, just like the yoga explosion and all the wellness explosions, the wellness influencers, like all these things, right? And we said to ourselves, wait, there's nightlife over here, there's yoga and wellness over here. This is very earnest and kind of like boring,
Yeah.
This is really awesome, but very bad for you, in many ways. But what if we brought these two worlds together, And so for me as an entrepreneur, I just said, what, like if we can merge wellness and nightlife culture together, there's probably a new lane that we can carve.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the concept. And it was meant to be really our core values or wellness, camaraderie, self-expression, mindfulness, and mischief. And the wellness piece sort of, it was all about sobriety. It was all about, substance-free, alcohol-free, really about being healthy. So again, we brought green juice, we brought, healthy teas, healthy bevs and bites, and then unbeknownst to us, all these sponsors and brands, who've always wanted to be in the festival world, but there was too big of a liability, like the Nikes of the world,
Yeah.
the Lululemons of the world.
Yeah.
They can't put their name on a festival where there's deaths from overdose, right? And so they started calling us and they said, hey, we want to do a partnership with Daybreaker. We want to sponsor you guys. We want to do a party that's healthy and whole and in the morning that incorporates our Nike athletes. That so all of a sudden we had hundreds of different brands and food and beverage companies who are all in the wellness space. We started sponsoring us, and that's how we kind of scaled across the country and the world. Yeah.
Do any people who come who aren't sober ask you, can we just put a little mimosa bar in the corner, or is it okay if I hit this gummy before I walk in?
We used to have that, I would say, early on, but that's not been the culture that we've developed. And I think, when you have core values, like with day one, before we even started Daybreaker, we were sharing these core values of wellness, camaraderie, self-expression, mindfulness, and mischief. And I think like, when you align it with the right whisper shared community, meaning we're not putting out to the public.
Yeah.
It was a private password protected. So we first curated the first 300 people, 180 friends showed up. They now understand the culture, which is a sober culture. And so then we said, hey, invite 2 friends to the next one. They did. We had 300 people to the next one, and then 600 to the next one, and then 900, and then it grew and grew and grew that way. But we really were very thoughtful. It wasn't just like, please buy a ticket. We weren't desperate because we had other jobs.
Yeah.
This was really like our way of wanting to curate the right values aligned community. And I think that's why we are still here 12 years later. Yeah.
I mean, girl, mazel tov. So you had said earlier that you like to start things and then pass them off, but this feels like you're here to stay.
Yes. Yeah. Because I personally deeply believe in the technology of dance and the healing technology of dance. Like, right, dance is the oldest healing technology that exists. It's what we did around a fire early on in civilization, or even before pre-civilization, right? It's like what we did to connect with one another before there were even words to share with each other. We danced, we moved to the beat of the drum, right? And so I think especially in today's culture where we're so divorced from our bodies, I think more than ever we need to come back into the body, to remember the dance, to remember that self-expression is actually what fuels our creativity and fuels our joy. And so I continue, especially now as a mother to a 6-year-old, and we dance every day in our living room. It's like what we do in the morning, what we do at night. It's like she's the first person at Daybreaker to go in the middle of the stage, front and center, bless you, to dance and get everybody up and dancing too. So it's like I actually more than ever believe in the value of what we're doing. And I also see that, now for the first time, this is where coffee culture is exploding.
Yeah.
In this moment today, after 12 years of beating this messaging over the head, now there are hundreds of morning coffee parties with DJs happening all over the world, inspired by us. And so to me, when I think of the work that we're doing, it's not just for Daybreaker, but it's actually we're creating and setting a culture of sobriety, so sobriety, 12 years ago, and I looked it up in the dictionary, I was like, what does sober mean? It's like muted in color. It's like people who have less energy. This is why I always like to wear bright colors, because sobriety actually means you're more present, you're more connected, you're more, mindful.
Yes.
You're more willing. All of our DJs at Daybreaker, every single one of them come up to me afterwards, almost with tears in their eyes, and they say, Radha, I never get to play for a sober community. I'm always playing for people who are just lost and their eyes are all gone. And here, everyone is in the music. They're focused in the arc of the story that I'm sharing musically. All of my artists, all of my performers, they're all so excited to play at Daybreaker because people are not fucked up, and they're the sobriety, the presence, the curiosity, the connection to the entire experience, start to finish, really matters not just to the attendee, but to the actual artists who are creating the experience as well.
Everybody wins.
Yeah.
It's how many of us, in high school, are like, I'm going to change the world. Who like are legitimately changing the world. Like you said, all these other things are springing up, modeled on what you have done. It's
it's a return to our homeostasis. I wouldn't say I'm changing. I'm just like, hey guys, let's not forget the technology of dance. Let's not forget when we gather, we're a super organism. We're happier. We're more immune. We're more creative. We're more, right? There's so much that happens when we are moving in unison to music together. All of the juice that happens outside of it, it actually has existed through time. So it's not even that I'm innovating or changing. It's just that it's a remembrance, right?
I hear now what it's done for the world and the masses. Talk to me about your evolution.
Kat, oh my gosh, so much. It's interesting. I'll say that like one anecdote I like to think about just when I'm feeling judgmental of myself or the community is I'll never forget. We had a party. It was on St. Patrick's Day in New York, and I'll never forget. It was like the first time where I would say I knew less people than I knew less people that I knew less people that I knew. It was more strangers, and people, it started out as parties, but anyway, with all my friends, and then less friends, and then now it's like all strangers. And I remember, it wasn't like the most healthy audience. It was St. Patrick's Day crowd meeting. It was like just like classically I would say non-cover of fitness magazine, right? And I remember just feeling judgmental. I'm like, oh my god, is my party not full anymore? And feeling all this judgment towards the community that was there. And then I remember like a bunch of the girls who were healthy and fit and beautiful, whatever, inviting all sort of the misfits into the center of the dance circle, and this community taught me, and I remember crying and just being like, wow, Radha, like I've been taught and molded by society to kind of pedestalize kind of this form, but we all deserve to be here. We all deserve to be in dance. We all deserve to connect with one another, however you look, however your body, shape and type is. And everybody is welcome here. And it sounds, superficial, but it's actually how most of the world thinks. We all judge each other. We judge ourselves. And so for me, it was a real moment of remembering of like what it means to really be a community leader or a community member, not even a leader, but a community member.
Community.
And what does it mean to be an inclusive community? So that was something that really changed for me, of just like really welcoming. And then I became deeply passionate about intergenerational community, being a part of Daybreaker. So now we Jane Goodall's been a Daybreaker with her cronies, probably like, studying a new generation of apes like us, and then we have mothers with young children coming with baby Bjorns, and it's like everyone in between. And so not only has that moment, that St. Patrick's Day event, changed the way I was like, oh, it needs to be this certain age group and this certain type and this certain person, this hotness level, whatever, to now like everybody's welcome. It's a community affair. There's many generations coming. Everyone is beautiful in their own way. Everyone comes in, fully decked out. It's a festival of community and culture and magic, and and I'm just proud of it.
Has it made you less judgmental other places in your life, or is that reserved for the parties?
Yeah, no, I would say that it's gosh, like it's changed every aspect of my life. I think in many ways it's upgraded me to be able to see myself more clearly, see, my relationships in my life more clearly, and to be able to say, oh, this relationship is no longer full-hearted. It's not a wholehearted relationship. It's a half-hearted relationship. So I'm going to, take space from this friend that no longer aligns with, I feel their judgment, or I used to look past it because they were grandfathered in. But now I only have room for wholehearted friendships, and friendships of support and devotion, co-devotion. Um, yeah, and I think, and with my loverships, with all of my
Loverships?
I mean, I
I've
say,
heard that before. Is that a thing?
I mean, lovership. I mean, I'm meaning
Well,
like,
I know what it means. I
yeah.
get it, but I'm just saying, did you make that up?
I mean, I think it's probably a word that is in the zeitgeist. Yeah.
Okay. Is it?
I think it is.
I'm so out of it. I
Yeah,
am
I mean,
so-
it's a very San Francisco a word, and a kind of a anyway.
But I
Yeah,
like
we
it.
can have, yeah.
So sorry, I didn't even take a
Yeah, no, that's it. I think, I think for me also, again, becoming a mother, has also, you know, watching her in the Daybreaker setting and watching her learn to mix and mingle with strangers. And then when I drop her off at school and seeing a lot of the kids in her class being afraid of each other or being taught to be afraid, watching a child growing up in full community versus kids who are trapped at home with their parents who are like in their set schedules, who it's an interesting experience because, again, no judgment on any parenting style, but it's just like, I think that we need to socialize our kids so much more.
So is it your belief that difference and otherness is taught and community is
Absolutely,
inherent?
absolutely. We were born from another human. We are born from, right,
Yeah.
from the womb,
Yeah.
right? And so, yes, like the moment we're born, we cannot survive or thrive without touch. Our baby will die if they're not touched or nurtured
Yeah.
for many of the first years of their lives.
Right.
And yet then we individuate, and especially in America, we again pedestalize individualism, and I call it toxic individualism, right? It's toxic. We have to come back to the sangha, to the community, to belonging, to us. And we have to move from a culture of toxic individualism to a culture of belonging, right? That's the big piece that I am deeply focused on, is moving from the cowboy riding off in the sunset, the classic American trope of like, go against the grain, do your own thing, to let's get back to a culture of community and belonging. Yeah.
So in the recovery community, a big slogan is the opposite of addiction is connection.
Uh-huh.
And so what you're doing, even though I know you didn't necessarily start out of a recovery place, but it really is providing the kind of connection that is the antidote to addiction.
Yes.
What an amazing thing.
I mean, yeah, and I think even, I think like whenever we have someone who is in recovery coming to Daybreaker, they wait to talk to me at the end of the event to say to me how excited they are that there are events that still feel like a party, that still feel like you're going to a club, but that is built around a culture of sobriety. And that I think is missing in the sober culture, is like more places that feel, smell, and look like that old kind of club culture.
Right. Yes, I do believe it's also missing. And that's something that we're trying to do here on Soberness. We're doing these live events.
Beautiful.
Here, because we need places where people can come,
exactly.
commiserate,
Exactly.
laugh,
Yes.
dance, do all the stuff.
Yes,
So
yes.
Our next one is on June 5th. I hope you'll come.
Oh my God,
But
I'd love to. Yeah.
Actually,
And
interestingly, the
invite
topic,
them to Daybreaker. Yeah.
we'll do all of
Please,
it.
yeah.
The topic of our next Soberness Story Hour is actually diversity in recovery,
Uh-huh.
and how so many of the spaces are very white, and how challenging that can be if you're a person of color
Uh-huh.
trying to recover in a community.
Yeah.
You're a person of color.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how are the Daybreaker rooms reflective of
Yeah.
of society, right?
Yeah. I think, again, intergenerationally, we are 10 out of 10. I think from a diversity perspective, I think that we are also, it's everybody. It's everybody. I think that we can reach out to a more, I would say, melanin community, like myself. But as I'm thinking about it, over the course of the last many years, we have deeply focused on more, diversity, equity, and inclusion. As an Indian, Japanese woman, I would say that mornings are always for everyone. Nights are not. So it's like, let's say like nightlife culture is more for. It's like, it's not that one is more than the other, or one's better than the other, but it's just like culturally,
Cultural norms.
cultural
Differences.
norms.
Yes.
There's differences, right? And so, so we are now, turning to science to express to all communities, melanin or not, that actually when you wake up in the morning and you train your body to move with the rhythm of the sun, actually you are a more optimistic person, you're a happier person, you actually make more money if you're a morning person. And there's like all of these data points that talk about what it means to be a morning person. And so from the lens of science, not culture, we want to shift culture.
It's interesting that science is actually supporting this very spiritual undertaking.
That's right.
Dancing is a spiritual undertaking. Connecting with the sunrise is a spiritual undertaking. And I believe that science and spirit
of course
exist together, and that's where the truth is, right? When science and spirit mix. So let's talk about Belong, which is the not-for-profit that you started around this idea of community. And I just want to say one last thing. As you were talking, it occurs to me that a successful community like the one you're describing is really based on lack of judgment, right?
That's right.
That's what it is. When you can be free to be yourself, then you are comfortable in the community. Otherwise, if you feel judged, no one's going to feel good there.
That's right.
So what you must have fostered in the Daybreaker events is this idea of
non-judgment. And this is what everybody says. That, I would say 30% of people come to Daybreaker come alone. Because they come alone because there's a culture that we've built that if you come alone, it doesn't matter. You'll make a friend anywhere you turn. Someone will talk to you. Someone will connect with you. You can dance with someone. It's just like the culture of you just come as you are, and everybody.
You okay?
Oh, you're right.
Was it something we said? Sorry, we're so sorry. I know we're talking about Daybreaker. Do you guys get up early and dance with the sun?
No, we don't.
Would you like to? Yeah. Not at all. Okay. Well, this little cutie over here is going to change your mind. You just wait, people. You just wait. Okay, continue. Sorry.
What was the question? Way belonging. Yeah. Oh, judgment, non-judgment. That was it. It was about non-judgment. Yeah,
they're very judgmental people.
I think that's actually probably the crux of all of it, is that, the type of community leader that you are will magnetize the type of community that that you're energetically putting out, right? And so it really is about first, stepping inward and seeing, like, sort of understanding how you belong to yourself first, so that when you radiate your own community leadership, you're coming from a place of like, okay, I already feel that exhale of I'm home in my own body, in my own soul. And so that when I lead, I'm leading from that place, right? And that's taken me time too. I feel like I've grown up in Daybreaker as well, and Belong Center, which is my nonprofit, is really kind of that step 0 to step 1. Daybreaker is kind of like when you're already like, okay, like let's go. Like, I'm ready to dance. I'm ready to go out. I'm ready to meet people. I'm ready to, I'm ready to step out into a territory where I'm going to dance sober. Let's go. I want to challenge myself. I want to meet people. I want to move with the sun. Let's go. But there's billions, we have a million people, maybe millions of people who know, right? But I mean, but there's like 7-8 billion people. So it's like, I think of like, we have this tiny little sliver of community that know and want to come and dance right now. And we're just getting started. Again, we continue to grow and build, but there's still this other, 7.999 billion people that I think we need to sort of first kind of coax them from 0 to 1. So I wrote a book in 2017 called Belong.
Yes.
Which also went viral. It was really cool. People were really excited about it. I'm writing a new book now as well. But from that place in the back of that book, of my first book, I had written about this dream of starting a center called the Belong Center. And so a year ago, I said, this is the time, this is the moment. Dr. Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General, is talking about the loneliness epidemic, and everyone's talking about it. Like, this is the moment to really launch it. So I raised $1 million. And hired an incredible team. And now we're in 25 states around the nation, year 1, with these Belong circles. So think about AA, right? You go there for a specific need, right? I want to be sober. Belong circles, if you're feeling lonely, you look us up at belongcenter.org, and you can find a circle near you, and you can go there and make a new friend and learn how to connect to yourself, to one another, to practice connection, to get to know each other. It's a 75-minute program circle. And I mean, 99% of the people who've taken surveys after our circles have said that they feel less lonely. They've made a new friend. They've fallen in love. They've built their, this transitional moment that is such a tender time in our lives. Like we go through about 8 or 9 transitions in our lives, from when we leave our home for the first time to go to college or move to a new city or get married or have a kid or get divorced or whatever, retire. There's moments where we're in this transitional period where we're like, who are my people? Where are my friends at? And so those are the transitional points where we feel the loneliest. And so those are the moments where we're like, hey, come to Belong Center. There's nothing wrong with you, right? There's no recovery program here. All that you are is feeling an existential feeling of what it means to be human, which is that loneliness happens to us. So before we turn to alcohol, before we turn to substances, before we turn to suicide hotline, before we turn to, let's actually start with something preventative. So that's what Belong Center is all about. So it's like, let's get people to connect with each other, to find, you talk about the opposite of
Addiction
is connection. So let's get to connection first before we even get to addiction, right? And so that's the premise of Belong Center. And if you look at every social issue we face as a human species, right, from gun violence, political polarization, the obesity epidemic, the environmental crisis, all of it ladders down to, I don't belong, therefore I will harm myself by overeating, by harming myself, by ejecting, or I will harm others by shooting a school, by being violent with my partner, by et cetera, by being politically polarized. Like all the different things that we're facing today ladders down to, I don't belong. If people in office, belonged as children, there'd be better listening, there'd be more collaboration, there'd be more, alignment. And so much of every single societal issue we're dealing with right now is as a result of our lack of belonging.
Oh, are we dealing with issues I hadn't noticed? I thought everything was copacetic. No.
Anyway, and so all this to say, like, that's why I was like, when I was thinking about what is my give back, like, what is my, where can I contribute the most? I looked at the environment. I looked at the plastic crisis. I looked at, all the children. But then I was like, wait a minute, what's underneath all of these issues? Okay, if we can solve for loneliness or help every human this planet belong, then we won't have any of these issues. We take all of them down, right? And so I actually feel like that is why I'm so passionate about ending loneliness and building these centers all around the country.
I have chills when I think about how far you've come based on the right things. You're building important places for people to be. You're engaging in something so positive, and I am fucking proud to know you. And I just put your fedora in my mouth. That was disgusting. Oh my God. I'm gonna free bleed from my mouth now. That does it for another episode of Soberness. Thank you so much for tuning in. Listen, we love making this show for you, but now we need you to do something for us, please. See that subscribe button? Hit it. So hit it. Just hit the subscribe button. Good. No, I'll wait. You hit it? Yeah, good. Now go around your house, get your mother, your dad, your cousin, the babysitter. I want everybody. We just need you to subscribe. We're so grateful. Thank you so much.